Welcome back to an all-new adult erotica in comics. You're watching Vaughn 82. I'm Scotty, your underground comic-loving friend. And in this week's video, we're going to be talking about the son of an underground comic legend who took his father's artwork, he took his father's style, and elevated that, took it in totally new directions that didn't exist when his father was around. If you haven't figured out who I'm talking about, of course I'm talking about Mark Bodē, and that's going to be the center of this week's video. I hope that you guys will stick around. Mark Bodē is a creator and cartoonist. Mark is the son of underground comics legend Vaughn Bodē and shares his father's art style and perpetuates many of his late father's creations, as well as his own. Mark was born on February 18th of 1963 in Utica, New York. The son of Vaughn Bodē and Barbara Falcon, he would begin drawing at the early age of 3 and was encouraged to draw throughout his childhood. His father would put a marker in his hand and say, "Color this area," and made sure I didn't go crazy outside of the lines, Mark said. They would always race up a hill by their house, knock on a manhole cover, and yell for Cheech Wizard, which was one of Vaughn's characters. Mark would ask why he never came out, and Vaughn would say, "He's chasing women and tricks." He was getting Mark to see this world that he created. He was brainwashing Mark's mind and kind of getting his imagination kicked into full gear. Cheech represented everything that Vaughn wasn't, kind of an alter ego for Vaughn Bodē. And the lizard represented Mark. Before he would pass, Vaughn would tell Mark to share his style, but don't get too close. Mark couldn't wait to work with his dad. And he would at the age of 15, when he colored unfinished works for Zooks, the first lizard in orbit for Heavy Metal magazine. Mark Bodē attended art school in Oakland, California, and he also studied animation at San Francisco State University. In '82, he attended the School of Visual Arts in New York City as a fine arts major. In 1984, he expanded a series originally created as a short story by his father titled Cobalt 60. While he was attending SVA, he had met Archie Goodwin, who at the time was starting up Epic Illustrated, and Archie ended up using Mark's fully painted story in Epic along with writing from Larry Todd. Mark would contribute to Epic from 1983 through 1986. It was later republished as a 4-issue limited series by Tundra Publishing. Mark would create Miami Mice for Ripoff Press in 1986 after him and his wife getting the idea from seeing the name on a glass tray during the anthropomorphic craze in the 1980s and decided to use that for a comic book. I believe it was Mark Bodē's first official comic book work. Bodē and Todd would collab again on Ripoff Press Gyro Force in 1987. From '88 through 1995, Mark Bodē wrote and drew comics with Kevin Eastman, creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The two collaborated on several issues for Mirage Studios, including issues 18 and 30. The Cobalt 60 saga was completed and published as 4 graphic novels with Eastman's company Tundra. Mark would take his talent in other directions a little later in life, taking up tattooing in 1994, training under the guidance of Al Valenta from West Massachusetts and Mike Maldonado from New York. He was seeing artists benefit from tattooing his and his father's art, and he wanted in on the cut. He was essentially the well for a lot of the creativity and had watched others benefit from his and his father's works for years. I'm looking at you, Ralph Bakshi. If you know of Vaughn and his legacy, you'll know that he was a heavy influence to the graffiti world. He and Mark being considered godfathers of graffiti, as his lettering and characters have been popular among graffiti artists in New York, riding on trains since the very beginning. The first known example of it being photographed was around 1972, shown here by an artist by the tag name Re2. It was Cheech Wizard. Mark himself would take up the spray can, and he was published in a magazine for a set of doors he painted a Bodē broad on. And he has since done mural work from everywhere from London to Spain, Germany to his hometown of San Francisco. Mark, along with his dad, liked to draw their women thick. Vaughn knew that sex sold, and he would teach Mark this as well. He taught him how to properly draw female breasts at age 7. Mark eagerly dived in and put aside time being a kid to perfect his craft and unknowingly at the time be carrying on his father's legacy. But I feel like Mark took it and ran with it. He elevated it, taking it and creating this beautiful art in so many different forms. Mark is still out there creating. You can find his art as well as merch of all kinds for sale at markbodē.com. And follow him on Instagram at Mark Bodē Official for updates on his life and artwork. As I wrap up today's video, I will throw up on the screen some of Mark and Vaughn's Bodē Babes and more erotic works. I appreciate you coming out to check out this week's video, and I definitely want to take a moment to thank the channel members. I want to thank you all so very much for your support, especially during this tough time. I take the channel member money and put together a monthly box of basic necessity items, and I take it to a local recovery center here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a small helping hand to someone who may have nothing, trying to turn their lives around. I appreciate it, and I know that they do as well. If you're thinking about joining, it's only $2 a month, less than the price of your cheapest new comic book. I thank you all for your consideration, and again, thank you channel members. And I want to thank you all for coming through to check out this week's video. I know it was definitely a pleasure for me to get to dive back into the Bodē history. I love both Vaughn Bodē and Mark Bodē. I love them both, and it was such a pleasure for me to initially cover Vaughn and then to be able to circle back and cover Mark in this week's video. Just such a pleasure. I enjoy this. It's a passion of mine. Please hit that like button. Please come back if you're interested in seeing more stuff just like this. I'm dropping new videos every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I love you guys. I hope you all have a fantastic week. And thanks for all the support. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Peace.